Hello all, welcome back. In this video, we'll be talking about simple storage service in AWS. So we'll be discussing about the core components, storage classes, security and management, and we'll see in practice. So it is a simple cloud object service, object storage service, and can store files as an objects inside the buckets, meaning it can store structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. It's used for data lakes, backups, logs, and for any data included pipelines, data pipelines. So keep some of the key properties, like there are a lot of key properties. One is scalability, meaning it can be scaled up and high based on the data, and you will not be managing everything. You'll just upload and the S3 and AWS takes care of the rest. So highly availability, meaning it's across globally it is available, and security, meaning you can restrict people from accessing it. Like if you have a public endpoint enabled, people can access. If you have it disabled, only people with proper permissions can access. One is pay as you go, meaning you only pay for what you used. And also durability, meaning it is highly durable. uh, it has some 11 nines of durability, which meaning data is stored redundantly across multiple devices and availability zones, so chance of losing the data or object is extremely low. So of course, security we'll be talking about in a later portion. Like security meaning, like I said, you can only um, provide permissions what kind of people should access it. And coming to the core concepts, we have the bucket. These are not just core, it's like a fundamental concept, I would say. Bucket, object, key, versioning, and region. So bucket is basically the container itself where you store everything. In a S3 service, the service will be created, meaning you are be given a permissions to create the buckets and store the data. So once you enable the S3 service, you create each bucket, meaning each container, and then in that particular container, you store all the data. So object is nothing but the data itself, like the file and its metadata. Um, so let's consider one image, like I'd say like image or else a CSV as an example. So there is a user data, and in user data you will store the data of each user, right? So you create a bucket and user data CSV you will be storing in a user directory. So key means it's a full path of that, but to uniquely identify this object, meaning user1.csv is a file and you store it. So the bucket should be globally unique name with that region and versioning. So what does key is, to identify user1.csv, you identify that particular object, key will help you, like it will have the full path, meaning user dash that particular CSV is to uniquely identify that particular object within that bucket. So it's not global, only within that bucket. So meaning if you use the same key for another file and upload same the user one, you upload again. Now the versioning comes into the place. If you disable the versioning, that user one will be replaced. If you enable the versioning, so the user one looks like it replaced, but you can access the previous versions, like only the latest version will be shown, but you can still see the previous version of that user one. And coming to the region, like I said, it's available globally, but you still mention some region for low latency. So while talking about versioning, there is a concept called object lock. So it lets you store objects in write once and read many mode. um, you can meaning you can just prevent objects from being deleted or modified for a fixed period of time. So it's basically used um, for compliance, legal archives, financial records, and something like that. And we also have, when it comes to keys, like we also have multi-path upload, where the single file is split into multiple parts. So the upload, you upload the parts in parallel, like it resume and upload if the connection breaks. So this is important for big files like huge Parquet files, like large backup or media files. It makes upload faster. So moving on to one of the most important concept, which is nothing but storage classes. So standard, intelligent tiering, express one zone, and glacier. So standard is basically the basic. Express one zone is like highly available in one particular zone, and intelligent tiering is it automatically uh, moves object between tiers based on access patterns. And glacier is for archives. Now, this is what I'm talking about, like durability things. So standard, not just standard, any S3 offers high durability, 99.999% durability, meaning there is very, very less chance until the entire database goes down. Um, so that is the only case because it is available throughout zones. If one zone gets down, you can access from another zone. So highly available across multiple available zones, like I said, low latency and high throughput, no minimum storage duration and retrieval fees. Best suitable for data that you applications are pipelines access often. Stored data across at least three available zones. It is resilient to failures and fits almost any type of workload. So when to use, need a real time or near real time processing used as a part of like active pipelines, like I said, input output for ETL jobs, and you have many more use cases, not just these, many more use cases. So coming to the frequent and infrequent access. So frequently accesses for a regular any data engineering jobs or regular uploads if you have a daily data ingestion task, something like that. So data is considered frequently accessed when you read and write in a daily or a multiple times per week. It is a part of a hot path in your pipeline. Describes our application like dashboards or applications queried regularly, and it powers real-time reports, ML features, or customer-facing apps. So use cases like streaming data rights and much more. So data is considered infrequently accessed. Sorry, there's a typo. You access it once in a while. It's not a part of a daily operation. You keep it for a backup compliance or long-term storage. You need it available, but not all the time. So monthly or quarterly reports, old logs, archived ETL outputs. Now coming to the intelligent tiering, which is kind of expensive compared to the standard as well. Now it automatically moves your data between access tiers based on how often you see it. The storage class helps reduce cost without changing application or managing lifecycle rules. So how it works, S3 tracks access patterns and move data to the correct tile automatically. No management needed, no lifecycle rules or manual setup. S3 handles everything in the backup. So usually in S3 standard, you have to do something called lifecycle rules based, meaning after if this file is not accessed for a particular time, move on to that particular another, you know, tile. So meaning, so standard is kind of costlier and intelligent or like infrequent access is kind of cheaper, and the glacier is much more cheaper. But the access, like it's a, if you need one you have to lose one. So if you need less cost, the accessing time would be more, and vice versa. And cost obsession, you pay less for infrequent access with no retrieval fees, and no performance loss. Data stays instantly accessible even when moved to a lower cost. So meaning it automatically does that, like when to, if you accessing more often, it moves to that standard tier. If it is like rarely used, maybe for a year, it moves to the glacier. Next, one zone. So it's has ultra low latency, single digit millisecond access time, up to 10 times faster than S3 standard, designed for performance sensitive workloads, store data within one availability zone. That is the trade-off over here. So it will only be available in one particular zone, whereas S3 is available throughout. So lower request costs compared to S3 standard, support extremely high rates, and rates in the sense request rates, hundreds of thousands of per second. Uses directory buckets for faster indexing and organization, ideal for workloads that need faster upload and faster retrieval. When to use latency critical applications and high performance ETL pipelines processing hot data. Hot data in the sense like frequently accessed. And yeah, you have much more use cases than I mentioned over here. And again, there is a typo here. And data is considered frequently accessed when you access the data multiple times per second for that particular one zone, right? Again, we have express one zone and frequent access and infrequent access. And the data drives online application or services. It supports continuous analytical or AI inference. It's part of a tight compute loop. So use cases high velocity event processing, and like I said, it's a much more use cases. Data is considered frequent, like infrequently accessed when it is used occasionally, but still needs very fast access. So it supports bursty workloads that are not constant. It does not need it every hour, but you need very low latency. Like, and data, some of the use cases are data with unpredictable access patterns, needing speed and low latency referential data and used occasionally. Now moving on to the archive, which is nothing but the glacier. It's for long-term archiving. So these options are ideal for compliance data and old logs, something like that. And we have glacier. Also, these three are types of glacier, but still glacial flexible retrieval, and deep archive instant retrieval. So, like you can see, designed for archival workloads with low retrieval frequency, offers high performance and flexible retrieval times, low cost than S3 standard and any other S3. Ideal for data with that you rarely use but still need available. And coming to like use cases like audit data and financial records, but most of the time the use case would be same, but it depends on how often you need them. And flexible retrieval, best for archive data that doesn't need immediate access. Supports free bulk retrieval, meaning 12 to 5 to 12 hours, meaning, and faster retrieval options available, ideal for disaster recovery, big restores, and migration jobs. Lower cost than regular S3 Glacier for bulk operations. And deep archive, lowest storage cost in the entire AWS portfolio. So designed for data retained for years with minimal access, retrieval times like 12 to 48 hours, which is very high. Best option for compliance and cold archives that are rarely needed, and highly durable, of course. So deep archive meaning you rarely use it, so it takes very long time. So if you rarely use it, then the cost of storing the data will be less. And glacier instant retrieval, designed for data that needs immediately access, combines low archival cost with high retrieval speed. So ideal for data sets accessed occasionally but must be real time, lower cost than S3 standard for these workloads. Perfect for analytical worker using historic data, like old dashboard needing fast rates and machine learning feature lookups, etc. Something like that. Now moving on to the management, it has lifecycle rules and replication. So we'll be seeing what they are in shortly, and security, basics of security and policy access. So coming to the lifecycle rules, we move, like, there are four components like move, delete, transition, clean. Move the old data to cheaper storage classes, automatically deletes the objects. Transition, like transition versions of objects. Clean up incomplete multi-part uploads. We talk about multi-part uploads. And replication copies objects from one bucket to another bucket automatically. We can replicate to another region or to another bucket in the same region. Object tags, ACLs, encrypted objects, like version history slow. So disaster recovery, keep a second copy in another region. That is when we can use it. And compliance requirements, like some regulations require multi-region or immutable backups when data migration, moving data to new accounts, regions, or environments, and improving like availability for global applications, global redundancy. Coming to policy access and management, before this, let's quickly talk about some basics. Like buckets are private by default. When you create a bucket, nobody can access it unless you explicitly grant the permission. And when creating a bucket, you always need to block the public access, and you also have IAM or identity and access management controls who can access S3. You can give permissions to the rules and something like that. Now talking about the policy and access management, we have bucket policy, access control list, and access points. So you can use them. Grant cross account access, allow access from specific VPC or IP ranges, enforces encryption, control public access, apply uniform rules to all the objects. Bucket policies override IAM or for object owned by the bucket owner. So now modern recommendations for access control list. Keep ACLs disabled. Use IAM bucket policies instead. Only use ACL for rare legacy or per object access scenarios. So ACLs are an older object level permission system. And access points we have useful for shared dataset or large scale analytics, restricting data access to specific VPCs, managing permissions at a per application level. So how access is evaluated when someone tries to access S3? IAM policy is checked and bucket policy is checked. Block public access restrictions apply. ACL, if enabled, are evaluated. Results like allow or deny based on all the rules combined. So access point provide named endpoints with their own access policies. Now let's see a quick demo before ending. So this is our S3 service, and before that, let's see this, like the storage classes we are talking about before. And for each storage classes, the first byte latency is like in milliseconds. For Express 1 zone, it's in single digit millisecond. And when coming to Glacier instant retrieval, it is still in milliseconds, but it's still considered as archived. But for Glacier flexible retrieval, Glacier deep archive, we have minutes to hours, and for completely hours. So durability, mostly everything has the same durability. So you can see it's like for availability, designed for availability, except for Express 1 zone because it's only available in that particular zone. And availability SLA, like it's again 99.9% for everything, mostly for everything. So availability zones 33133. One zone is again 1. Express 1 zone is always 1. Frequent and infrequent access. So minimum storage duration charge. So nothing for standard intelligent tiring, but for Express 1 zone, if you store more than 1 hour, you'll be charged, and 30 days, 30 days, 90 days, 90 days, and 180 days. Dual charge, nothing, nothing, and per GB retrieval, everything is for per GB. Lifecycle transitions, yes, yes. For intelligent trying, also yes. Standard, yes. Except for one zone regular access. I just want to show you this. You can find it in Amazon storage classes, official one. Now let's see. So we have four kinds of buckets: general purpose, directory buckets, table buckets, vector buckets. And For the access and management security, we have access point for FSX, and access grants. I'm access analyzer. And storage management, like we have batch operations and storage lens. So let's, for a general purpose buckets, let's look into the metadata. What we have here, metadata configuration. You can interact with your metadata tables by using Amazon Athena or query engine that supports Apache Iceberg. We have properties over here, bucket versioning. Usually when you create it, it's disabled, but you can either edit it over here or you can just um, mention it while creating. So AWS region, you can see here, the region is this particular region, but it's available globally, meaning for this particular region, you can fastly access than any other. We also have attribute based access control for this thing, and you can just enable if you want. And we have tags, and we have the encryption bucket key enabled, and intelligent tiling archive configuration if you want to enable. It's gonna be same S3, but based on the configuration it changes to either intelligent tiling or something like that. And we have event notification to connect with the SNS service, meaning it's for mainly for event-based pipelines where if in case some file is added to the S3, it will send a notification to so SNS. We have object lock over here, request space and transfer acceleration, and also static website hosting over here. So when you work, if it is for a regular projects or personal projects, you don't really use this much. But when you work with a regular actual company, you will come across all of these. Coming to permissions, we have like block public access, block all public access. Meaning, so using this URL, you can like from meaning object URL, you can access it from anywhere. You can see the data if this is disabled. But since you're blocking, it won't allow you to see. And also you can have a bucket policy, which like we thought like it overrides that IAM policy. Object ownership and access control list with the ACLs, cross origin resource, sorry, cross origin resource sharing. We have metrics and management. We are talking about cycle configuration. We can create a life cycle over here, like the rule name, choose a full scope, like limit the scope for its this rule using one or more filters, like filter type, prefix, object tags, and object size. Life cycle rules action, like transition current version of object between storage classes, and you can just create rule if you want. What it does is based on your um, meaning when you use it less, it automatically changes that, but it's have an extra charge and replication rules. So create a replication rule, and so you have to enable the versioning before even have to create this. So you can see the destination and source bucket and destination and IAM role. Make sure you have like it doesn't allow like that. It make sure that it has proper IAM roles and encryption and destination storage class and additional replication options. So we have here inventory con. You can create an inventory configuration on the bucket to generate a flat file list of your objects and metadata. These schedule reports can include all objects and the bucket limited to share prefix. So we also have access points, and I think that's pretty much it. But if you really want to create in a regular project, you just need to create a bucket and simply you can leave as a default properties and you can just start using it, just start upload. Yeah. Coming to the bucket, um, Let's say I have this particular data CSV. So this is the object URL for that, and right now the public access is not available. So I mean disabled. So you cannot access this throughout the internet. But if it is enabled, you can by going to this URL you can see what data is in. And we have a storage class. Let's see we can edit it or not. So like I said, you can change the storage class over here, and server side encryption settings, checksum, stacks, metadata again, and object lock currently it's disabled, permissions and versioning, enable bucket versioning, and you can see what are the versions, like what are the historic things done to this particular file. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, and thank you for watching.